Hi everyone, this is a demo of my app that's built in React and Redux in the front end and Rails for the API in the back end. It's called Get Plant Game, and you start on this login or register screen, and it's a plant and gardening tips CMS. So unless you've logged in, you can't access any of these other routes, and pressing home will bring you back to this screen at this time, the login URL. So you can log in if you're an existing user, or you can register a new account. So if we log in, put in your password, it tells you you've logged in and you're brought to the home page. And this is where you have your plant and gardening tips feed. So they're short tips. It will just scroll through there. So from here, you can go to the About Us page, which has the contact details. You can choose to add a new tip. So you've got your plant tip title, your description, your image. So we can do that now and do a test. You would paste in an image URL and you can press publish, or if you want to go back, you can go back to the home screen. So press publish, plant tip created successfully, and if you scroll down, there's your new tip there. And that's most of the functionality there. So it's got add new tip, you can also access from there, go back. Behind the scenes, and you can log out. So the login and logout authentication is done with a JWT token, and using a Redux store and a bit of local storage. So log out. So if we go to the code, there was quite a bit of code involved, even though the app looks quite simple. So this is the schema in the API. This one became redundant, but I used one for the admin or the user and one for the plant tips. So these were the tables that were created for that. We had different controllers for each area. So the admin controller, which defined how you can create something, the index, the parameters that are required to create something, and it refers to the admin serializer, giving it the attributes that it needs, and then also refers to the application controller, which encodes a token, a JWT token, which is it uses a bearer token and includes it in an authorization header. So on login or on creating a new tip or on registering a new user, it passes the token in the header. So similar with the plant tips controller, we've got index, show, create, update, destroy, and the required parameters. These were the models for each area. So the admin has the relationship of has many plant, and it is secured by a password, and it's validated on a unique username as well. You've got your plant. It needs to have a title and a description when it's entered. And you've got your routes here. So these are the routes that can be referenced by React So they become your navigation routes, or the route to create a new plant tip, or to create a new user. So if we head into the React app, you've got all the components here. So we could start with the navigation bar. So we used a navigation bar that's broken into two sections, so that it verifies if they have logged in here, and if they have, then they get access to home, to about and new tip. But if they haven't, they're redirected back to the login area. Every component has its own CSS to style it. So this is the pink hover on the navigation bar. You've got your header, which is, I'll just log in again. Oh, I put the wrong password. So this is the header section here. I did a floating text on the header. So that's the CSS there. And this is how to float the text over the image. I've got the various pages, so the About Us page, which is fairly simple. I've used Bootstrap for styling throughout and to put things into containers so that they are responsive for mobile design, so everything moves. Like that. And the menu collapses if you're going into mobile size. You've got your home page. So the home page references the other components. It's got the header sitting there at the top. It's got the plant component, so it feeds so this is the plant feed here. And you'll see throughout the Redux references, loading state, mapping state, dispatching state, so that it can store that, so that when you reload the page, the state is still there. This is the login page. So again, it's like a holding page that is comprised of the two components, the login form and the register form. It's got styling there. So I've done a full image background. So the login form, again, handling state up here, saying if it's successful, they get this. I use Toastify to bring in the messages that pop across the screen here. And on success, handling the submit and dispatching it to the Redux store. We've got your CSS here. Got the register form, which is again very similar but has more fields to fill in. So this registers the user and creates them a JWT token. which is then stored in local storage while they use the app. And this is the CSS there. This is the plant component. So it calls the plant objects from the Rails API and maps over them to extract the image, the title, the description. And this is the styling there, quite a bit of styling. There's also a spinner component, which I've used when things are loading. So if it's loading up, the spinner comes over in a transparent overlay there. And so that's made using Bootstrap and then a bit of styling. This sidebar component didn't end up getting used, but it was going to sit on the side of the screen there, and that had quite a bit of styling as well. And then there was some extra styling referred to with Bootstrap, jQuery for the window popper. And so then you come into the Redux coding. So there were action creators for the authentication, so to do with admin, and then to do with the plant tips. So what to do when someone was registered or when someone logged in, and to set that info and store it in local storage, and what to do if there was an error or if it was a success. The plant tips one is similar. You've also got fetching all the tips. So that's your get request. You've got your post request to create a new tip and to set all the tips. So Axios was used as my method to fetch and post data. You've got all your, you've got a middleware file here. So this is the one file that stores the Axios method to post or pull data, and it uses the base URL, which is currently the local host, and then adds whatever URL extension you need, /login, /new tip. So base URL, it adds the authentication token, the JWT token, and puts it in the header with authorization, so that can be passed around while the app is being used, and methods to catch errors. You've got your Redux store configuration there, and then you've got reducers, as well as an index.js. So root reducer, you've got your reducer for admin, which refers to this constants file. You've got a loading reducer for the spinner. You've got a tips reducer for the plant tips. I've covered that constants file. And app.js is here. So this loads the spinner. It dispatches the Redux actions, and the routes are stored here for the React router DOM. So you've got your login route. It's saying that unless you're logged in, it's going to redirect you here. You've got your route path, which is home. You've got your about and your new tip. And if